So if you love single cut guitars and you love T-style guitars, but you're looking for something a little bit different to the usual vintage spec that most companies lean towards, this might be a guitar that would interest you. In this video, we're going to be checking out this really cool guitar from the guys at Godin. This is the Radium. So Godin guitars are based in Canada, and they're one of those companies that I kind of feel you don't really hear a lot of people talking about. But if you look at some of the artists that have historically played these guitars, you're going to see a lot of big names on there. Now, Godin, to me, have always been the guitar of choice for a lot of guys who are working professionals. So either touring guys or studio guys, because they make very high quality, great sounding, dependable instruments. And this one is no different. This is a really cool kind of modernized take on a Les Paul meets a Telecaster, and it's got some DNA from both of those guitars inside, as well as just a few other cool things that Godin have thrown in. So in this video, we're going to be checking this thing out. So before we do that, I just want to let you guys know this is not a sponsored video today. So Godin are not paying me to make this video, and I'm not keeping this guitar. It's just here on loan, and all the thoughts and opinions in the video, as always, are my own. So we're going to check out the specs of this thing now, but I just want to say before that, I know that 96% of the people who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. Now, you guys subscribing to the channel helps the channel keep growing, and it helps me make videos like this. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, please hit that subscribe button. Doing that really helps me to keep on growing the channel. Now, we're going to check out the specs of this thing. So the color I'm holding is called Carbon Black. So obviously you can see on camera, it's not black, it's more of a brown color, but I guess what they're going for there is kind of like, it's like a burnt wood effect because carbon black. Now, on first look, it's got a lot of Telecaster vibe about it, because obviously we've got the typical Telecaster kind of shape with Godin's own little sort of tweaks to it. But where this kind of shares some similarity with the Les Paul is that, number one, we've got a pair of humbuckers, but it's also a set neck. And the set neck is done in a very Gibson sort of manner. So we have a Canadian basswood body. It's very, very lightweight, even though it's a T-style guitar, which, you know, we normally think of those as being a little bit heftier. This is very lightweight. So this would easily be a great gigging guitar. On top of that, we have two humbuckers and a single coil in the middle. The single coil is like a Tele style, and then we have these two Godin Zebra humbuckers either side. These are quite punchy humbuckers, so they're great for like kind of hard rock, classic rock. They've got a lot of output. You could probably stretch this to playing metal as well. Then in the middle, obviously we've got that Tele pickup, which gives us those nice kind of swampy blues tones. We do have a coil split here on the master tone control, which splits just the humbuckers. Obviously you can't split the single coil, so we can go 3 single coils with this as well, which is quite cool. Master volume and 5-way switch. Now the 5-way switch works in a really interesting way. So in the first position it's the bridge pickup. In the second position it goes to the bridge pickup and the middle pickup, but it actually splits the bridge pickup humbucker. So this actually now becomes a single coil in this setting. So you got this coil here and the middle pickup. In the middle it's just the middle pickup. In the fourth position it does the same thing but with the neck pickup, so it splits the neck pickup. So we've got this coil and the middle pickup. And then in the fifth position it's just the neck humbucker, but then we can actually split the humbuckers and have position 5 or position 1 as single coil sounds as well. The one thing that switching doesn't allow for is in position 2 and 4, you don't have the humbucker with the middle pickup because it automatically splits it. So in those positions, the coil split actually does nothing at all because the pickup is already split. We do have the jack on the top of the guitar. It's quite close to the edge. This is one of the things that I'm not crazy about, which we'll talk about in a moment. On the back, this is where we have that real kind of Les Paul style neck joint. So it's not a bolt on and there's no kind of neck slimming going on there. We've got a full fat heel joint. If you're someone who likes playing Les Pauls, that will feel pretty comfortable. We've got a silverleaf maple neck on this, which is the same color as the body. And the fretboard on top of that is just a rosewood fretboard. This particular one does have a slight reddish hue to it. You can't really see it on camera too well, but in person it's got a slight red hue about it. It's a 12-inch radius, so very, very flat, very modern feeling. And what this guitar actually is a 24 3/4 inch scale. So even though it's a T-style, it's actually got that Gibson scale length. So again, if you're a Les Paul player, it kind of instantly feels familiar. The neck on this is quite slim. It's very kind of slim and fast and modern feeling. I personally gravitate towards a slightly fatter neck, and I think this guitar would be a lot of fun with a slightly fatter neck, but I do understand why Godin have gone for a slimmer neck on this. Then at the top end, we've got a Graphtec nut, and we have a 3-a-side headstock. The tuners on this are Godin's own branded tuners. They're great quality. They are kind of visually based on Grover's. They feel solid and they do hold tune very, very well. We've got a slight neck volute. It's not a proper volute as such, but there is a slight bit of extra width there as well where the neck and the headstock meet. And on the front of the headstock, the Godin faceplate is actually screwed onto the headstock. That again is one of the visual things that I'm not crazy about with this guitar. I think it would look a lot nicer if that was actually kind of decaled onto the headstock, but again, that's just a visual thing. That's nothing major. Also forgot to mention this has a wraparound tailpiece with the compensated saddles on top. You can't intonate each one individually, but you can intonate the whole bridge back and forth as well. So before we hear this thing, there are a few things that I don't love about this that I just want to bring up as well. Now, these are just my opinion, so these don't really detract from the guitar in any way. The first one is just the color. I don't really like brown guitars. This is also available in another color called Winchester Brown, which is a more of a kind of yellowy, orangey sort of normal natural wood finish, which I think looks a little bit nicer than this one. But, you know, I'm just not a fan of brown guitars, so that can't be helped. This would be cool in a bunch of different colors, and I think the guitar itself looks fantastic. And the other thing I don't like is I'm just not really a fan of this plastic headstock face. I just think that would look nicer as a headstock decal, purely because I think it's just a little bit too shiny and it kind of detracts from the kind of natural look of the guitar. Then there was two really small things that don't really affect the guitar as such and the experience of the guitar, but the touring guitar player in me noticed them right away, and they would be issues for me if I was to take this guitar on the road. The first one is the position of the switch in relation to the volume pot. Now, we've got this big control plate here, which is obviously very much Tele inspired, but there's a lot of space in the middle. I would like to see the volume pot moved over slightly, only a centimetre or two, purely because when you're in the bridge position, the gap between the switch and the pot is very, very small. So if you're going to quickly go in there for a pickup change, you're going to nudge that volume pot and potentially change volume mid-song. I would like to see a little bit more space there, just so the switch is a little bit easier to use. And I also don't like that the jack is right up against the edge. I like my input jacks either to be slightly more in if they're top mounted or on the side. only because I use right angle cables. And that's because if you use a right angle cable, it's going to be sticking over the edge, and you know what it's like if you're touring, there's every chance that could get bumped or knocked or caught on something, and then you've snapped your cable off inside your guitar. Minor thing really, but for me, the touring guitar player in me would notice that as an issue, because that's something that I would be very worried about if I was taking this on the road. Those are incredibly easily addressed, because all you've really got to do is move this over slightly and move these over slightly, and then that problem goes away completely. I just think there's a big old control plate there, and the spacing hasn't really been utilized in the way that I would utilize it. Now, Godin probably have a perfectly good reason for doing that, but just speaking on my experience of what I see on the road, that is something that would cause me a bit of an issue. But that said, this is still a great guitar. So now I'm going to plug this thing in and hear some sounds. All right, so gear-wise, I've got the Radium going into the Blackstar Studio 10 6L6, which is running completely clean. That's going via the 2-notes Torpedo Captor X. And in front of the amp, I've got the Kernum Ridge Overdrive that I'll be using later on in video. So I'm going to start by playing clean with all 5 of the pickup positions without splitting the coils. Now this has some great clean tones. Even though this has 2 quite punchy humbuckers in there, it doesn't actually push the amp too hard, which I think is a good thing because you get that really nice chimey clean. Now that bridge pickup really has a nice shine to it. The coil split is almost not needed because that pickup is quite chimey anyway, but obviously we can split that. The neck pickup has a real nice warmth to it. Almost like a P90 quality. Really nice and full. Those in-between positions are great if you're a gigging guitar player and you need to take one guitar to kind of cover a lot of different ground, because you can kind of get some of those Strat-esque sounds. It's got that nice quacky sort of sound to it. Now we're going to check out the coil split. So obviously, like I said earlier, the coil split only affects the humbuckers. So if I split the coils of the bridge pickup, you're only really going to get the benefits in position 1 and 5, because in 2 and 4, it already splits those coils. So if I go to position 2, for instance, and I strum, the coil split is on. You can see me turning it on and off there, but there's no actual difference to the tone. It's only the humbucker positions it actually affects. The neck pickup, even when it's split, is still really rich sounding, which I really like. There's a little bit of additional sparkle there compared to the non-split position, but it's still got that kind of nice roundness to it. The bridge pickup is a little bit spiky for my taste. I like a little bit more body there, but I mean, it's a great sounding pickup. I probably wouldn't leave the bridge pickup split. I would probably always use that one in humbucker mode because it's kind of chimey enough. So now I'm going to turn on the Kernan Ridge and we're going to hear all 5 of those pickup positions with overdrive. So there's plenty of great rock tones in this thing. That bridge pickup's got a real nice bite. But then if you go to some of those in-between positions, like position 4 for instance, you get a really nice, slightly nasal blues sound. So now I'm going to go back to the bridge and coil split that so we can hear the bridge and neck pickups with the coil split engaged. So there you go, there is the Godin Radium. There's some great sounds in this thing. Now, aside from the things I didn't like, which to be honest were all purely cosmetic, this is a fantastic instrument. Now, I've always thought Godin build great stuff. They are kind of renowned as a real high-end brand. It's really hard to fault the workmanship that goes on to these guitars. They really know what they're doing, and it's no surprise that so many pro players pick these things for their sessions because they are incredibly dependable and they sound great. Whether you agree with me or not about the looks of this thing, that is completely subjective, but what this actually is a great guitar. If you're looking for something that's like a Tele meets a Les Paul, but with a little bit more versatility, this is really hard to beat. I mean, aside from the fact that it doesn't have a trem, it kind of does everything else that you probably need a guitar to do. If you don't use a trem, then this is probably perfect because it's got humbucker sounds, it's got single coil sounds, it's got slightly out of phase sounds, it's got a bit of everything really. So, I mean, if you're looking for a guitar that is, you know, that one guitar that does everything on a gig, or you could take one guitar into the studio for the day, this should cover all of those bases. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this thing down below in the comments. While you're doing that, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching as always.